Spider's back! We're getting going. We're getting going. Spider, spider, here comes Spider, CFL's red zone. Spider, spider, here comes Spider, CFL's red zone. Hit it! Yeah, here we are. We're back. Yeah, I want to hear you chanting loud in the red zone. We want Spider CFL red zone rule. Different set of game. I'm going to do one more like this, and I'll go back to my original set if I can get situated here. It's unfamiliarity territory. Anyway, how you been? I'm a little further back because the photo wouldn't get in, you know. The thumb, needle photo, whatever they call it, thumb mark, whatever, on YouTube. Anyway, I'm back, and what I wanted to do is, I remember, I want to start off with this. My son, I had to show this picture one time, and this is when this is the Irving Challenge Cup in Cole Harbour. My son played for the Cole Harbour Wings, and they were the host team, but they were like in the top 2 or 3 teams in Atlantic, Canada that year for the Irving Challenge Cup, the Batham AAA title for Atlantic, Canada. And it was called the Irving Challenge Cup, the Irving Empire, you know. And what was interesting, I showed this, but I forgot to mention who presented them. He had a hat trick against Nova Scotia, by the way, and they were the host team. And they beat Nova Scotia, and Stephen Dixon and Bottomley and all. And Stephen Dixon actually played for Team Canada with Sidney Crosby. Imagine. So anyway, so this is quite a picture of my son. Okay, and what I dug out here, this picture here, the Irving Challenge Cup hat trick when they beat Nova Scotia 5-3. And then what happened was, this is a picture, it's quite amazing, and this is Cam Russell, who was from Cole Harbour, played for the Chicago Blackhawks, who was a fantastic defenseman. He's involved with the Halifax Mooseheads here now in Quebec Major Junior. But he presented, as you can tell, the same picture. He presented the 3 pucks. My son scored a hat trick when they beat Nova Scotia in the Irving Challenge Cup at Cole Harbour Place with the 3 pucks, the Irving Challenge Cup 3 pucks for the hat trick. And he just was fantastic. He dominated the game. He dominated the game. And someone has the videotape of that from Allman High. Actually, the high school recorded it. They were in Cole Harbour Place and they recorded it because my son was playing and he was popular in sports. Although this was Batham AAA, but they did record it. But I was never able to get a copy of it. I love, because the 3 goals he scored were just unbelievable goals. And then they got into their final against Newfoundland. And my son was kneed by a goon from New Brunswick in the Irving Challenge Cup. My son had the most goals, and he was a rookie that year, by the way. Oxby, McDonald, and my son, SPYDER S, that was the best line in Batham AAA in Atlantic, Canada. So my son was kneed. He was playing on one knee, and he played in the championship game for the Irving Challenge Cup, and he scored. He almost had a hat trick too. He just missed an open net. He scored the tie and the winning goal, and he got MVP as well. He had the most goals in the Irving Challenge Cup too, and that's presented by the head guy from Irving. Okay, and there's the Irving Challenge Cup beside my son. So, and you get MVP for the game, most valuable player for the game, the championship game, which they won 3-2. Really close game. Now, I just wanted to do that for my son, and I know all of you are very proud, of your sons, like I am. The next year, by the way, they won the Irving Challenge Cup again. My son was captain of the team when Sidney Crosby was assistant captain, and they won it again. And then following year, he played in the Dartmouth Subways with Sidney Crosby, and they were the first Atlantic region team to win a silver medal. They lost to Saskatoon, by the way, in the Air Canada Cup. That was for Midget AAA title for all of Canada. So they were spellbound a bit by the TSN, cameras and everything, and they didn't play that good. They lost 5-2. They didn't play a very good game. and they beat the best team in the tournament, BC, and they couldn't beat Saskatoon, who were more rested because we played late, and we were at our A game. We would have won the Air Canada Cup as well, because I think we were the better team, and we would have been playing our best game like we played against BC, but we had an off game, and our goalie let us down. 3 really weak goals. Nothing against the goalie. It happens. He was nervous. Okay, I'm going to get into my session now. That's enough of that. But I wanted to do that for my son. He deserves it. I call him my amazing son. Like, I wrote a song called My Amazing Son on my album. You can find it online, actually, under Wild Spider. That's my artist name. And that album was done, you know, in my 40s, but I'm a fair amount older now. But, you know, it's up there. I only put it up there a year or so ago, and had it for a long time. It was a homemade CD I made. But My Amazing Son, and I think a lot of parents can relate to that, but my album was The Art of the Spider, and it's under Wild Spider. But that's like Osterwild, Wild Spider. And My Amazing Son's the name of the song. But anyway, let's get into the session here. I wanted to get right into it. 6 minutes on that, but it was worth it. Anyway, so I made a few notes because I don't want to miss anything here. I'm going to get right into like openings, the CFL opening games. And my son went to Calgary, and by the way, the 21,000, that was not true. That Ambrosi and the CFL posted on the CFL site, their site, it's not true. It was 5,000. My son sent me a picture, and I have something here I want to show you, but I may be able to show you later. Sent me a picture, right? And this is when the game was going on one side, and there was no more than 2,000 people were on the one side, and maybe 2,000 or more on the other side. So a total of maybe 5,000. That's all that was there. You try to tell me the Canadian ratio is selling CFL 3-down football, and the Hashmark rule that Randy Ambrosi was bragging about, by the way, on the sidelines. He was there in Calgary for the home opener against the Alouettes, and he was down there bragging about it, and saying that it's the greatest thing, you know, it's going to make CFL 3-down football so much more entertaining, so much more exciting. He said previous to that it would basically almost, you know, practically like really reduce 2-and-outs. You wouldn't see that many 2-and-outs. What a joke. You see more 2-and-outs and more short passes, and I'll get sideways too on the field. I'll get to that in a second. But he was going on about the process, okay, the process about that. And it was a fair process, and they looked at everything, the review, they looked at basically indirectly, he said they looked at every possible rule that could be adopted to make our CFL 3-down game a lot better than it is. And the Hashmark rule is not going to do it, I can tell you that much. I mean, they were throwing more passes sideways because it's 4 yards, you know, it makes it, okay, where the hash marks run down the middle of the field. By the way, the CIS marks are still there. It's a joke. So the CIS aren't even going to go with this. The head guy said they're not even, 4 or 5 years, not even going to look at it. So it's a joke to see that in the field where you see the, you know, the narrower hash mark. It's not even, some of the fields are where they play CIS football, they haven't even got, it's just lines, like lines, right? Where the hash marks are supposed to be narrow with the new CFL rule, hash mark rule, and then they have the original ones that were there forever in the CFL that was never needed to be changed. And there was all kinds of touchdowns being thrown all over the field for big plays. This is gimmicky, it's Mickey Mouse, and it's basically, it's a snow job. It's a con job and a snow job. They were actually 4 yards narrower on each side of the field. And the boundary, by the way, it makes it even worse because you'd be too easy to get an interception. But basically that means they're going to be throwing more sideways passes, which they were doing, sideways, even shorter passes, because they have 4 yards to get the ball out there, because the hash marks, they narrow by 4 yards on each side. It's unbelievable, and it's made the game worse already. It's made the game worse. It's made it worse. I'll not get into the Saskatchewan game and how bad it was, but there was a lot of 2-and-outs and too many field goals, and really bad in the Saskatchewan game against Hamilton. I'll get that into a minute, but into in a minute. But I said last time I wanted to read the email that Randy Ambrosi sent me. Okay, all right. about my rule being in the mix and was supposed to be presented to the new Innovation Rules Committee. Okay, and here it is. I'm going to pull it up. This is from Mr. Randy Ambrosi. Okay, right here he says Wayne. He calls me Wayne, not Spider. I've been waiting to receive your updated presentation on your red zone rule. Once I have it in hand, I will share it with the members of the Innovation Rules Committee. That's the new Innovation Rules Committee. On that note, we aren't sharing the names of Innovation Committee members, and I asked him that. I want the names, okay? As we don't, he says, we don't want to intimidate them in their ideologies or their ideas, but he says as we want to centralize the process. And the sidelines in Calgary, the home umpire, he said a very fair, thorough process. Meaning, he said they looked at everything. Well, that's not true. And then he says, when I receive your updated presentation, because I was actually going to do a brand new presentation on my CFL Red Zone rule for him to present to the CFL and the new Innovation Rules Committee, which I did. He says, when I receive your updated presentation, I will circulate it to the committee, and they will decide if they want to forward it to the CFL Rules Committee. That's meaning after the CFL Innovation Rules Committee look at it. That's how the process goes. And then the Innovation Rules Committee, the new Innovation Rules Committee has to look at it first, and then they would forward it to if they wanted the CFL Rules Committee to look at it for a vote, okay, to be approved and be adopted, they would forward to the CFL Rules Committee, and then would go to the governors for the final vote. And he says, so, this is Mr. Ambrosi said to me, so time is tight, and if we were going to get basically my red zone rule, he calls it my red zone rule, into the mix, we need to move quickly. So what I did right away, I sent it back to him. I was actually going to send it that day. I was waiting for the end of the free agency to end, so I was going to send it actually that day. So within an hour, he had it in his hands, and it was confirmed. He had it, and I sent the email, and he received it. So it got into the mix, but the problem is it wasn't presented. This is 2020, and it wasn't presented in 2020 because the season was canceled. It was canceled. So the meetings didn't even happen in March. It didn't even happen. The season was canceled right after they announced touchdown Atlantic down here. So the meetings didn't happen in late March. It didn't happen before the preseason. And so it was canceled, 2020, and the 2021 was almost canceled, and a shortened season of only 14 games started in August. So it got pushed back and postponed because they never had any meetings. As you know, as of this year, they talked about new CFL rules changes. Well, they got pushed back and postponed, so my CFL Red Zone rule should have been still in the mix. I didn't hear it wasn't going to be from him, nothing. Okay, so he promised me it was going to be in the mix, so if it wasn't presented because of the pandemic, canceled season in the CFL in 2020, and where it was only like a 14 game season, which was postponed too, but they actually played 14 games in the Grey Cup, but they never had the time to look at rules, new rules because it was a shortened season in 2021. And by the way, Mr. Vanstone, what did Mr. Vanstone, the John Leader Post say? Who's done this guy has been reporting on the CFL, who really knows CFL, who's been reporting on the Saskatchewan Roughriders for decades, okay? Who wrote, like I said before, a famous book in 1989, the famous Grey Cup between the Helen Tiger Cats and the Saskatchewan Roughriders at the Sky Dome. You know, went down to the last play, the field goal, you know, the last play, the game. You know, he wrote that book, and he sends me an email after the 2021 season, the shortened season of 14 games, and the CFL playoffs, and the Grey Cup game in Hamilton, okay, 108th Grey Cup game in Hamilton, and he said, Spider, he calls me Spider, he says, everybody calls me Spider, he says, they couldn't have wrote a better script for your role in the 2021 season, the CFL, Spider. They couldn't have wrote a better script. Do you know why? There was only 51% of touchdowns scored amongst 9 CFL teams in a regular CFL season, which was 14 games, but they played the playoffs, played the Grey Cup, and he said it was brutal in the playoffs, as you know, like in the red zone, on the 1 or 2 yard, they wouldn't even go for it. Like, you know, and in the Grey Cup, the same thing. You know, Hamilton Tiger Cats would have won the Grey Cup with my CFL Red Zone rule. And it would have been a way better Grey Cup, way better CFL playoffs. The playoffs were brutal. The season was brutal. There was way too many 2-and-outs. You know, unappealing 2-and-outs, okay, in the red zone, resulting in more distasteful, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals. With, by the way, which my CFL rule remarkably, completely eliminates both. You tell me what the Hashmark does. And that's 1 out of 10 super features. And I added another bonus feature recently that I talked about. But you tell me, give me the features of the Hashmarks. I'll give you features that aren't features, okay? More sideways passes, shorter, because it's narrow by 4 yards on each side of their little tiny hash marks that is squashed in, right? Shorter little sideways passes for more 2-and-outs, which, like a Saskatchewan Rough Rider game, can you believe this? Against the Hamilton Tiger Cats after the first half, listen to this. Like, on the second down, resulting in 2-and-outs, right? You know what you know how many first downs Saskatchewan had? 1 out of 22 attempts, and Hamilton didn't have any out of like 20, 21. They had none. It was all 2-and-outs, and there was 6 straight field goals for points. And there was, yeah, it was insane mostly. And then at the end of the game, Hamilton fell apart defensively because of their old complaints about calling in on their post-game show about horrible, again, Canadian old linemen that are only there because of the Canadian passport and the Canadian race. And they were complaining like they do every year. And that's what's wrong with the CFL. The Canadian ratio is killing the CFL. It's killing the CFL. And I'll get into that in a minute. But the hash marks is a joke. And like I was saying earlier, the boundary is so easy to get an interception. There's even more shorter passes, sideways, okay, on both sides of the field, resulting in more 2-and-outs. So, Randy Ambrosi, you have, I hate to say it, you have literally lied to us and CFL fans, football fans, saying that the hash mark, and you were bragging about it on the sideline in Calgary at the home opener, bragging about it, how fantastic this rule is going to be, and you even said prior to that, it's going to be the biggest, imagine, ever CFL rule ever adopted, and it's going to create way more offense and be a way more exciting brand of CFL 3-and-out football with big passing plays for touchdowns. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's all baloney. It's all garbage. It's all BS. I'm sorry, it's all bullshit. It's lies. Like it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's not true at all. It's unbelievable. And in Saskatchewan Hamilton game in the first half, there might have been 4 first downs, in both teams. It was all field goals, all 2-and-outs. It was brutal football. I turned it off. I saw in the highlights what happened at the end, but it was brutal right up to the last 5 minutes or 4 minutes. It was brutal football. And then, by the way, before that game, the Ottawa game, in Ottawa, the Ottawa game in Winnipeg, it was a lot of field goals a game, and 2-and-outs a game. You're going to see them. It's there listen, my CFL rule is there every single CFL game. They're staring the CFL right in the eye, my CFL Red Zone rule. Seriously, it's there every game. It happens every single CFL game. Literally, there. They're staring the CFL right in the eye, just waiting to be adopted. Wisely adopted by the CFL. And Randy Ambrosi in the CFL, that's why they silenced my rule. Because my CFL rule makes a complete fool out of their Mickey Mouse little minor alteration, little hashmark tweet rule, which is a joke. It's an absolute joke. It's a cover-up, like Mark Trestman said, for what's really wrong with the CFL. Yeah, you know what's really wrong with the CFL? The Canadian ratio and too many unappealing, like repetitive 2-down football stops, and they're playing 2-down football in the red zone, resulting in more, because the only time they go for it is the 1-yard line. They don't go for it on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, right up to 20. They don't go. They kick another easy chip shot field goal. Distasteful, predictable, non-eventful easy chip shot field goal, which my CFL rule will remarkably completely eliminate. What would the hash mark do? This and those two Those are the two biggest killers and two biggest turnoffs of CFL 3-down game in the red zone. Completely gone, my CFL red zone rule. Gone! Which is that's the most needed role in the CFL. And like Mr. Armitage said from the Regina Leader Post, he said, Spider, there's so much ammo now to prove that my CFL red zone rule deserves to be part of our CFL 3-down game. It's overwhelming. It's there on a platter. I'm going to give it to them. They take my spiders away and you just use the CFL red zone rule. But I think spiders would be good to leave spiders CFL red zone rule, especially in the red zone rule. It would attract a lot of younger generation fans, even kids, right? They would love that spiders CFL red zone rule. You know, with my CFL field diagram, the 20 outline in red, you know, the number 20 as well, and the 20-yard line outlined red in the red zones with my Spider CFL red zone rule logo. It's stunning, eye-catching logo. Okay, they could put it right on the field on both red zones, and the graphics they could use, unbelievable. And on the 35 with my CFL red zone rule kick, which is a big part of my CFL red zone rule. You can find this all my Spider CFL Red Zone Rule on Facebook page, by the way. My full presentation, by the way, that was supposedly going to be presented, that was promised me by Mr. Ambrosi to the CFL Rules Committee this year, that and this is why they did it. They did it deliberately. They silenced my rule. They don't want the younger generation, the NFL only fans that they desperately need, that they have any chance to grow their CFL fan base or CFL 3-down game of football. They're silencing them, and they suppressed my rule because they didn't come up with themselves. It wasn't their baby. That's how much ego and how pompous they are, and how jealous they are of my CFL Red Zone rule, which I worked on for 5 years, by the way, and did a survey on why are there so many Canadian sports fans in Canada only watching the NFL and watching it more and more overwhelmingly and becoming more and more popular that don't even watch our own brand of CFL 3-down football in our own country. That was my question, powerful question. So everything I gathered in my data and in my findings, that's how I come up with my CFL Red Zone rule. Okay, that by the way addresses all their complaints about their CFL 3-down game, and that were the Canadian ratio was a complaint, by the way, a big complaint. But too much kicking in the CFL, that was the complaint. And he says too many tune-outs. They said they don't even exist in the NFL. Of course they don't. But 2-down football stops are brutal, or tune-outs. And 2-down football stops, they said, where it's even more magnified in the red zone, is a real turn-off for them, resulting in more non-eventful, predictable, distasteful, easy chip shot field goals. Which, by the way, they said are the two biggest killers and two biggest turn-offs of the CFL 3-down game of football in the red zone. Basically playing 2-down football and only go for it in the 1-yard line. And you see more repetitive, boring, tune-outs resulting in more repetitive, boring, or monotonous, same word, predictable, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals. And that was a real turn-off for them. And they said way too many games with too many, like this weekend, with way too many field goals for points, and way too many of them in the red zone for non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals because of more boring 2-down football stops. So these were their major complaints, and guess what? My CFL Red Zone rule addresses all of them and fixes them, and will eliminate the two biggest killers and turnoffs in the red zone. Okay, my CFL Red Zone rule will eliminate them completely. Okay, and by the way, between the red zones, unlike what you see now, but all they're doing is shorter sideways passes now with a narrow Hashmark, resulting in more tune-outs because they want to run more clock with these little sideways passes with the narrow. Now it's shorter to get out there, so you're going to see more of them, and it's going to result in and they're going to be under 5 yards or even less than that. They were even less than 5-yard passes, and it's going to result in more tune-outs, which it has this weekend. It has. And so with my CFL Red Zone rule, between the red zones, they would be doing the complete opposite. You know why? Because then you would see big bombs down the field, on both sides of the field, middle of the field, all over the field for big passing plays. You know why? Because they want to get in the red zone to play with my Spider CFL Red Zone rule. You know why? Because they know that if they need the 3rd down to score a touchdown, and if they maintain possession of the ball and not forced outside the red zone, they still get Spider CFL Red Zone rule kick from the 35, and you add the 7 from the 42, which is a challenging kick, which will add even more excitement and drama to my CFL red zone rule. But that's a fact too. And by the way, near the red zone on third down, they'd be going for it more too. They get in the red zone to play with my Spiders, my super exciting Spider CFL red zone rule. And that's fact, by the way. That's totally fact. Boy, oh boy, I may have to do another session the way this has gone, because it's gone too fast. I don't think I've covered everything. The BC Lions, I know I haven't covered everything, so I'm going to talk a little bit and I'm going to do another one back to back because I haven't covered what I wanted to cover. But anyway, Hashmark rule versus my Spider CFL red zone rule, not even comparable. Like my son said, not even debatable. It's an absolute joke. That Hashmark rule is at Mickey Mouse, little minor little tweak, you know, alteration like Mark Tressington, and it's an absolute joke. It's going to make our game worse. There's going to be more 2-and-outs, and as you see, more little smaller sideways passes resulting in more 2-and-outs. It's what a bunch of BS and what a con job they did. And they did it deliberately because my CFL red zone rule would make a fool of that rule. And boy, they look bad, and they're going to choke. They're already choking on it. And you know what? I have to get my CFL red zone rule out there. We have to get it out there. You have to help me get it out there. Okay, I'll talk about my next session about the plan of getting it out there and what I need your help with. But anyway, thanks for listening. And I'm on a roll, and I'm really pissed off. After this weekend, I'm even more pissed off and more determined. But we got to get my CFL red zone rule, my Spider CFL red zone rule out there, complemented with the new compatible CFL red zone rule kick. We have to get it out there. All the younger generation fans and all the NFL only fans, who are the mass market sports fans that the CFL don't have, we have to get my Spider CFL red zone rule out there. And by the way, the Canadian ratio is killing the CFL. And they already have injuries, and they're scrambling to get Canadian players. They're guaranteed, and I'm going to get that into more of that in my next session. Anyway, you take care, and thanks for watching. I'll get back to my original set. This will probably be the last one because you can't see the hats. Well, okay, take care. It's going to be signing off in about now 10 seconds. Spider, Spider, here comes Spider CFL red zone rule. Okay? And it's the most needed rule. Spider signing off.